The other big story this evening, Campaign 2020, a live look at the vice presidential debate stage. This is at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. A short time ago, Mike Pence and Kamala Harris did their final walkthroughs ahead of tonight's 90-minute debate. Now, to keep the candidates safe, they will be separated by these plexiglass barriers. Those barriers were a big point of contention for the Pence team, which finally conceded to allowing them last night. The candidates will be seated at least 12 feet apart, and any guest who refuses to wear a mask will be removed from the auditorium. KPIX 5's Wilson Walker joins us now to set the stage for tonight's big debate. Wilson?
Liz, when Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris as his running mate, a lot of people immediately thought ahead to the debate we are about to see. The Kamala Harris resume comes with no shortage of debate experience, from her time as San Francisco District Attorney to her run for California Attorney General.
It is in my best interest as District Attorney that they respect your rights, that they know how to gather evidence instead of gathering lawsuits.
But that was the last time she was on stage alone with a Republican. Since then, she has largely been debating her own party.
You know, I mean, let's stop with the political attack stuff.
Now, as for the incumbent,
if he's going to do that, you got to give him time.
Yet, I will give you an opportunity to do that.
I'll take them one at a time.
Mike Pence is widely thought to have won his first vice presidential debate. Pence himself was an attorney and a radio talk show host before he ever won an election. Even his 2016 challenger Tim Kaine admits Pence knows how to deliver a line.
There's a reason why people question the trustworthiness of Hillary Clinton, and that's because they're paying attention.
The radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
So in all likelihood, fewer eruptions and less unchained than last week, but this is a heavyweight fight, a senator that knows how to ask a tough question, and a vice president that knows how to field them.
Don't put words into my mouth. Well, he never said that.
That is simply not true.
Different kind of debate tonight. Two very different kind of people with incredibly high stakes. Live here in San Francisco, Wilson Walker, KPIX 5.
Thanks, Wilson. Political analyst Melissa Caen joining us now to talk about what to expect from tonight's debate. And Melissa, for Kamala Harris, how much is she going to rely on those skills as a prosecutor, and what exactly does she have to focus on?
Well, so Kamala Harris hasn't actually prosecuted a case in about 20 years, but she still has an important skill that you learn as a prosecutor, and that is the ability to listen. That's what makes her so effective when she's questioning people in the Senate, for example. She's listening to the answers, and she's really delivering it right back to them. And that's very, very effective, and it's actually hard to do under pressure. And so tonight what you're going to see is her tying Pence to Donald Trump as tightly as possible, not letting there be any daylight between them, and really holding Pence accountable for everything, every transgression that she believes and Democrats believe that the president has committed.
So she's fast on her feet. All right, so for Vice President Pence, how aggressive can he be against Kamala Harris without, the appearance that he's overreaching if he's verbally attacking her?
Well, that's always something to consider. I can tell you Joe Biden's debate against Sarah Palin many years ago is a real case study in how to both be an effective debater but not cross the line and be too aggressive. Having said that, Vice President Pence isn't a particularly aggressive person. That's really not his persona. And so it is unlikely that we're going to see him yelling or sort of losing his temper with Senator Harris. And I think we'll actually hear a lot more substance tonight, because these are not two candidates who are necessarily geared to talk over each other. I think we might actually see two far more polite VP candidates than we saw from the presidential candidates.
I think Pence has called himself Rush Limbaugh on decaf, but that's...
Decaf.
Now, okay, President Trump, Joe Biden, obviously they're in their 70s, and the president treated for COVID. Biden's health has been an issue, too. How much more importance do those things put on this vice presidential showcase tonight?
Well, it's really uncomfortable to say when you're looking at two people who are running to be the leader of the free world, as it were, that we're really concerned that y'all are going to die in office. It's not exactly politics, but it's true. And while vice presidential debates don't usually do much to advance or to detract from the presidential race. This year, eyes are really on these guys, and it's going to be really important how either of them performs tonight in a way that we really haven't seen in modern history.
We're less than an hour away. Melissa Caen, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much. We will have a special schedule tonight for the debate. CBS Evening News coming up next here at 5:30, followed by that debate at 6. We'll stream KPIX News at 6 on CBSN Bay Area for you. And we'll have a special newscast at 10 o'clock, followed by the KPIX 5 News at 11.